Hi everyone, this is Saisha from the blog Jabashi.com and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you guys a brand new recipe. It's fermented salsa. Now it's very different than homemade salsa. We are actually fermenting all the vegetables and the spices. You guys know how much I love fermenting food. We love adding probiotics to our diet, and the best way to add probiotics to our diet is by fermenting food at our house and making these live probiotics. I love making fermented salsa. Now it's spring and summertime, and this is a time when I crave more of my fermented salsa. It has a spicy kick to it. It's made out of jalapenos, some tomatoes, some onions, cilantro, so many different ingredients in the salsa. So why do I make fermented food at home? Well, because there's live probiotics, and in our house we focus on our gut health. And in order to keep a healthy gut, you need to feed it probiotics. Fermented food has probiotics, and probiotics have enzymes and bacteria that help with your gut flora, and it also helps with immune system. So there's so many benefits you can get out of probiotics. The best way of intaking probiotics is making the probiotics food at home. It's collecting all the good bacteria in the area, and you really can't go wrong with it. So I have shared some fermented jalapeno recipe with you guys in the past. I've also shared milk kefir recipe with you guys. Per request, I'm going to share some more fermented recipes with you guys so you guys can start making this healthy, fermented, full of probiotic foods at home for you and your family. Now you can eat this fermented salsa with some tortilla chips. We like to add some guacamole as well as some fermented jalapenos to our salsa and just mix it up, and it makes an amazing appetizer dish or something to snack on. And I also add this fermented salsa into my tacos. When I make some tacos at home, I'll add some of my fermented salsa as well as some fermented jalapenos, and they taste amazing. So let's get started with our recipe. Okay, so I started out with washing all my vegetables, and then I'm going to wear some gloves and start the process of dicing all my vegetables. Now for this recipe, I have used red onion, tomatoes, green bell pepper, jalapenos, scallions, which are green onions, and cilantro, garlic, and some fresh lemon, and 1 teaspoon of pink Himalaya salt. So I'm going to start out with chopping some spring onions. Now, normally I like to use only the dark green part of the spring onions for this fermented salsa recipe, but I'm going to go ahead and use the whole spring onion, and I'm using 2 to 3 scallions. And then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and dice up some cilantro, and I'm using 1/4 cup of diced cilantro for this recipe. And I have a lot of cilantro in my herb garden, and that's where I get my cilantro from. Now this is a great recipe to follow when you are gardening and you have a bunch of tomatoes left over and some cilantro. I know that my herb garden is full of cilantro, some mint, some parsley. So it makes it very easy to make this fermented salsa when there's a lot of tomatoes growing and jalapenos growing in my garden. I get a chance to use up all the vegetables that I have planted. Now, I started learning how to make fermented food 3 years ago, and I'm in love with it. It ensures me that I'm working on having healthy balance of bacteria for myself and my family. And it is said that probiotics can also help with your immune system, and I feel like we all need to focus on our immune system as much as possible. And of course, I'm all about the gut health, so I'm always fermenting something in my kitchen. Once you get the gist of it, it becomes very easy to ferment food. I started out with milk kefir, and it was such an easy process. Then I started making some sauerkraut and some kimchi at home, and started fermenting jalapenos and some carrots. It became such an easy process that I can't go back now. Now, normally I would take out the seeds from the tomatoes, but this time I'm just letting it in and see how it goes. So I'm now starting out with dicing one red onion. If you don't have red onion, you can use any type of onion, but I'm using one medium red onion diced. Now, the full recipe is actually located on my blog, Jabashi.com, and you guys can follow step-by-step guide and print out the recipe and just keep it for the next time you have a bunch of onions and tomatoes and some cilantro in your fridge. Go ahead and take all the ingredients out and make yourself a fermented salsa. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 jalapenos for this recipe. Now, I have used 3 jalapenos. I love to give my salsa that spicy kick, so I like to add a lot of jalapenos to my fermented salsa. But if you guys are not into spicy food, or you guys want less spicy, I would recommend using only 1 jalapeno. And if you guys don't want any spice to the salsa, then I would just avoid adding some jalapenos to my fermented salsa. Now, once the jalapenos are diced, we have all our vegetables and our spices diced up. We're going to combine all the ingredients in a clean mason jar. Now, before that, I will press on all the ingredients and just massage them as much as possible, so it will allow the liquid from the vegetables to be released. I will also press all the ingredients down in the jar and just let the liquid come out from the vegetables as much as possible. So let's get started with this process. I'm also going to add 1 to 2 teaspoons of pink Himalaya salt to this recipe. Once that's done, this is where you're going to massage all the vegetables and the herbs that you're using for the salsa. And this is how I just massage and just squeeze a bit so I can let the liquid come out of the vegetables. Okay, so adding all the ingredients to my mason jar, and you're going to again continue to press until all the vegetables are submerged under the liquid. Now, for this, you would need to place a weight. It's a fermented weight on the top of the vegetables to weigh them down. But I made so much of this salsa that I'm really not going to use a weight. I normally do use the weight, but I'm using a smaller mason jar this time for the video. And so I'm just going to press and squeeze as much as possible. And then once that's done, I'm going to put a parchment paper and then just put on a lid and just let it sit. So I will share the link to the fermenting kit that also has a fermenting weight to it on the description below, as well as on my blog post for fermented salsa. I have purchased this a couple years ago, and I've been using this to ferment anything and everything at my house. So it becomes a very handy tool that you need to ferment your food. So once everything is pressed and submerged under the liquid, you will need to place a weight on top of the vegetables to weigh them down and protect it from the bacteria. Seal the jar as tight as possible and set aside on your kitchen counter for 2 to 3 days. I love this recipe. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe as well. If you guys want to see more of this fermented food, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as my blog. And I will be back with a brand new recipe with you guys next week that you guys can make at home and enjoy with your family.